Morning, folks. Welcome to the Joey Show. I'm Joey Avery. Boy, do we have a fun one today. Thanks to everyone who tuned in last week. Fun one with Trevor Wallace. But we're back, and we have a lot of things to cover on the solo episode front. We need to do a study, a consideration, a deep dive on the concept of the political convention. Okay. We also need to do a deep dive on Scott Peterson. We need to do an update on our continued intrepid reporting on Boeing. And I have a crazy update to the Nord Stream pipeline story. Now, I know that is getting your dicks hard at home. Not usually the type of exciting tale. It's going to pay off. All right. We're going to have a fun show. But I'm going to start by, I guess I'll give you guys a little update on my week. Or I guess on my life. You know, I was talking to someone recently and kind of explaining the circumstances of my move to New York and how, you know, not only has it been a really fun time getting out here, getting to do comedy and getting to do the road, but also the circumstances that one of my very best friends, and honestly, two of my really close friends that I go all the way back to high school with, moved into the same building that I live in New York. This is a unique thing, all right? I'm 33, okay? Usually, if you're adding things to your life, you have to clean up their shit all the time, and that does happen. We have a good time. But yeah, I am actually living in a scenario where I live in a house where I can take the elevator down and see my good friends whenever the hell I want, okay? It is college dorm room levels. It's honestly a Jerry Seinfeld level life that I'm trying to make sure I wrap my head around how awesome that is to do as an adult. I live in my one bedroom with my wife. We're married. We're allowed to do what we want in here. You know what I mean? No, but to be able to hop on an elevator and go down a few floors on pretty much whenever I want and see my friend and go, you want to play some Mario Kart? Do you want to have a beer and play that Mario Kart? Yeah, we'll do that. And we do that. We do it quite a bit. It is a sitcom. It is Friends. It is, in my case, Seinfeld. Because he's a lunatic. He comes barging in whenever, and I'm a comedian. And my wife is not Elaine, so don't do that. But it's a really cool experience. And I'm on the road so much that sometimes I don't get to appreciate it. But now that I've gotten to be here for a little bit, I'm just taking a moment to be a little grateful. I had a fun couple weeks here in New York. I went down to Long Beach Island. I went to the Jersey Shore. I played some games. I rode a merry-go-round. I won a lot of toys for the children we were with. The babies, they love the toys. We got ice cream. We honestly treated ourselves like babies. I think more people should do that. I think that's a great thing to do as an adult is be like, why don't I do what I wanted to do when I was 8? I talked about it on last week's episode with Trevor Wallace, the adult sleepover. Okay? Like, not everything about being an adult means you need to do super adult shit. Sometimes be a child. Have ice cream. Go to the fair. Win a ball. Play with it. Not in a gross way. Just play with that ball. It was a very interesting weekend because I went from being on the Jersey Shore to later in the weekend changing a tire with Vinny from the Jersey Shore. 2 firsts. 3 firsts. 4, okay, a lot of firsts. Never been to the Jersey Shore. Never met someone from the Jersey Shore. Never changed a tire. I didn't do much of the changing. Vinny helped a little bit. He was kind of pretending. Honestly, he and I didn't do shit. And then his agent and Patty Clips, the guy who was driving, changed his tire, and we watched it. But it was a nice full circle moment, okay, for me. I'd not been to the shore, and now all of a sudden I'm getting the full experience. It was fun. I got back from a long trip down there Saturday, and then Sunday got invited to Tim Dillon's lovely party in the Hamptons and went, and it was great. It was very hard to get there because I woke up and missed the Well, I didn't really miss it. I just didn't do a lot of pre-planning. I just thought I'd be able to figure it out. I woke up, the good trains were gone. I took like a 45-minute subway to a 45-minute wait to a 1-hour train ride to an hour and 15-minute Uber to go to a party for 4 hours. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, I didn't have an ally. You know what I mean? You know how important it is to have an ally when you're going to a party? I was going to a party and I was just like, this, usually I know people, but I texted several different people and everyone was like, nah, it's too far. I didn't get invited. Most people were like, I didn't get invited. I was like, oh, that's sick, dude, whatever. And so I'm sitting there. I was hungover because I went out Saturday. I'm sitting on planes, trains, and automobiles for 4.5 hours, going to a party out of my depth in the Hamptons. Barely know Tim. Was stoked to get the invite. Never been to the Hamptons. No idea who's going to be there. Can't find someone who's going to be there. Then I'm sitting there going, did I do the right thing? I'm here for 4 hours. But I finally got in the Uber for an hour and 15 minutes. The last leg of my trip, I was like, should I go? What if I show up and I'm a loser and I'm wearing, dude, like a white on, I had like a nice kind of outfit because I was like, it's the Hamptons. You're supposed to, right? But I guess the moral of the story is I'm glad I did go. It was very fun. It was worth it. Tons of fun people there. He pulls together an eclectic group. You have reality stars. You have famous comedians. You have New York comedians trying to be famous. You have, I think probably some TikTokers, apparently some politicians, people who worked in politics, then just people from Long Island. That's a unique crew right there. And we like a unique crew. Whatever pulls the people together. So those are my personal tales. We can get into some of the stories because I have been between watching the DNC, the RNC before that, and then the 2 Scott Peterson documentaries, I've come to some conclusions about fandom. I love fandom. I love being a fan of things. People know I like sports. I like music. I buy band T-shirts. I love all of it. And then I love when people are fans of me. I'm fans of podcasts. I'm fans of comedians. But I couldn't help but be surprised when I was watching the DNC and Hillary Clinton walked out and everyone was like, ah! I was like, are we sure? I thought people said no. The whole thing was crazy. It was so much better run than the RNC. It was kind of astounding. And people have different takeaways on that. Some people will say, I think the Republicans would say like, well, that's because the Democrats are like a finely tuned anti-democratic machine that was able to pull Joe Biden out, install Kamala Harris. And we are just like more of a classic political party. We just are a bunch of different people and it's like, also Trump is not great at running things. It's true. It's a known thing. It's fair. I'm not saying that should be your reasoning, but it was just a bit of a mess. The Democrat convention was so well run. In fairness, it was a little spooky because you're watching people. Hillary Clinton walks out, and I'll be damned if a staffer didn't show tits. I think I saw a staffer show tits out for Hillary. That's not a phrase that people have used in the past. But for some reason, this convention, it was this perfect general idea of Democrat where it's like, we're not bogged down in Kamala yet. We haven't gone to Kamalaville. We're just kind of like, she's a good vibration. And so everyone was like, let's fucking go. People were fired up. And there was one thing that fired me up. And we're going to pull some clips today. Why the fuck not? Why not play some clips? There's been a lot of things. There's one thing that fired me up from this. And that was, the clip that I had trouble finding this clip. So we're going to have David Pakman laughing in it. But let's just watch what President Obama had to say here.
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
Yeah, folks, that's a dick joke. That is a dick joke. And it's nice to see politicians getting on the same page as comedians. Because we're not that different. Are we? Are we? A bunch of, you could say, people with narcissistic tendencies running around the country going, don't you like what I have to say? And having relationships with their own fan bases and then also doing things that they need to do to move up in the industry. I know it sounds like I suck some dick at that party. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that people know how to work the room a little bit. Okay? They know where their bread is buttered. They know which way they need to flow. It's not a pure normal friendship. Okay? These people who work together at the DNC, when you see them on stage at the end of an event, you're going, that's got to be awkward. You guys are all hugging each other. Biden's up there hugging Kamala, and she's like, thank you, Joe. And he's like, you're a fucking bitch. I don't think that's what he said, but it's like, you know, he's gone. He's gone now. I feel like we should have let him run the country just because it's good for him. You know? You let old people do that from time to time. You let them do things. You just let them do things that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe it's not healthy for them to be doing that, but you go, I think it keeps them going. I think it keeps them alive. But I'm happy to see the dick joke back. Now, Trump, way ahead of the curve. He has always been happy to cut loose, to just say whatever. And Democrats are finally catching up to that, okay? They're finally catching up to that. Now, is that a good thing? I would say yes. Some people would say, oh, it sets a bad example or whatever, and it's like, they're all setting a bad example. These people shouldn't be your role models. You know, they have good ideas from time to time, you know, but like, come on. There are very few people that make it to that level of American politics that you should actually be like, I feel like they're a good person. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm just saying that they're calculated people. I mean, we saw this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That was pretty good. RFK Jr. dropped out and he endorsed Trump. Same person that he's discussed earlier by saying that you think a Trump presidency would be any better in a second term? It wouldn't. He's criticized almost everything that Trump has done. But the second that his campaign was floundering, and he reports say he went to the Harris campaign but got nothing in return, he got better stuff from Trump, he said, fuck it. Let's go Trump. He released a long speech saying that he had to do it because the Democrats are now the party of anti-democracy. He made some good points in that speech, but I don't trust him for shit. I think that's how you have to look at all this. Because most of them don't give a fuck about you. Like, genuinely, I'm not saying there aren't people in public service that have some, you know, concept of what they want for the average person and the difference that they can make, for sure. But these are hyper-narcissistic careerists who, and there's nothing wrong with that, so are most of your favorite entertainers. But they are just, you know, they're doing that. So I think you want to take a dispassionate view. Do not become too much of a fan. So much so that you are going tits out for Hillary. Okay? Hillary is not a tits out gal. Although I did see one tweet about a time that she did take her tits out. I need to pull this up. Okay? I cannot completely verify this, but I did see it on Twitter. And I think that should be enough. I will say that in this tweet, which I'm pulling up right now, which I will have on screen here, this photo is photoshopped because she's not actually caked up like that. Okay, here we go. My apologies, folks. We're just running on low steam. Here we have a biography of Hillary Clinton written by Gail Sheehy and published in late 1999 stated that Mrs. Clinton had refused to talk to the president for 8 months after the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke. She resumed talking to her husband only when she phoned him and urged him in the strongest terms to begin bombing Serbia. The president began bombing within 24 hours, Alexander Cockburn observed in the Los Angeles Times. Now, the tweet that makes it funny is the fact Bill Clinton may have bombed a country so Hillary Clinton would resume missionary sex with the lights off has ruined my entire week. That is funny. She's not that caked up. That is photoshopped. So can we trust it? Fact checker says yes. So that is a time that she pulled her tits out. But do we need to do it for her? The excitement that was going on was a good sign. It's what you need to win. And that is what these parties and these people are actually built to do. We all know Trump only cares about winning. He does not care about other people. This is known. This is factual. Kamala seems the same way based on her shifting tides and manner of ascending to her position. RFK pretended to be different. Obama, I am a little bitch for because he's a good speaker, so I want to believe. I do. I kind of do. I got to be honest. He seems like a cool guy. But RFK just flipped on everything. And it's funny because now he is kind of leading the charge for the Republican mindset that what the Democrats have done is anti-democratic. Okay? And the Democrats have taken this new position, they've infused their campaign with life, and they're kind of looking at Trump. Obviously, they're kind of looking at Trump and saying, that's a crazy old man. Now, I want you to remember, if you can turn back your clock, what the talking points were 2 months ago when it was Trump versus Biden. And all the Democrats would say was that Trump is a threat to democracy, and all the Republicans would say is that Biden is a crazy old man. That is interesting, and it does illustrate what's happening here. Okay, I'm not saying it's bullshit. It's strategy. It's a game. But much like the athletes who are playing a game that I'm a fan of, all right, they want to impress the crowd. They want the crowd to cheer for them. Okay, they will take time to shake hands, but it's not about you. All right, and you have to remember that. Pick a policy, do your thing, but just don't go full fan mode because it gets crazy. There was one more clip on the DNC that I thought was just kind of funny. This is Gavin Newsom talking about his perspective on the abbreviated primary.
How are you feeling about the switch?
I mean, the switch. No, we went through a very open process and a very inclusive process. It was bottom up. I don't know if you know that. Yes, that's what I've been told to say.
Yes, it was a blitz primary, I believe is what they called it.
It's a very, very fast blitz. Yes.
I think it was
a blink primary, so we call that.
Oh, a 30-minute convention.
Yeah.
Between a tweet and another tweet.
It's amazing how it happened.
Yeah, it's been amazing. But what is amazing is how unified everybody is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's next level.
Let's go back here to the discomfort of Jon Favreau of Pod Save America when he realizes what Gavin is doing. Let's take another peek here.
It's amazing how it happened.
Yeah, it's been amazing. But what is amazing?
It's amazing how it happened. Dude, Gavin is heated. And this is why I like politicians going on podcasts. Because when you're on a podcast, I know this for a fact, you're going to say more real, dumb, ridiculous shit that you'll regret. I don't even remember half the shit that I've said on here. I really don't. None of it, honestly, and not even from earlier this episode. But what Gavin is doing right there is being comfortable and saying what he really thinks. I don't think he would have done that on CNN. I think he would have been talking point Gavin, part of the party, but he knows he's a little fucked. His timeline is right here, okay? If she wins, which he ostensibly wants, I think he would rather have Trump win and get his hack at it in 4 years instead of having to wait 8. But hey, that's how it goes, baby. It's so fun to see when people just go, what the fuck? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's really amazing. What's really amazing is how he followed that up by saying what's really amazing is how unified everybody was. I wasn't getting that vibe. That is a guy who showed up to a party and had a target and was like, she's the girl that I want to go home with. And then his best friend went home with that girl, and he has to be like, nah, dude, I'm stoked for you, dude. Yeah, that's sick. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Did you hit or what? Oh yeah, you did? Yeah, that's yeah, man. I'm yeah, dude. You deserve it. Click. Fat. That's basically what that was, and I know that's what he did after that clip. That man, let's just say my boy has homemade hair gel. Gavin, all right? The man who named our state fruit in California when he was lieutenant governor for like 3 days. We covered it early on the podcast. Gavin's a fascinating figure. But we don't have to do a whole fucking Gavin Newsom retrospective. He doesn't matter right now. What matters is the conventions and how fucking weird they are. Who is going to these? That was my question. Republican, Democrat, who's going to them? Again, the Democrats put on a good show. That was a fun show. That was a vibe. Okay? Lil Jon's there, banging, speeches, banging. Obama, great speech. Michelle riled the people up. Biden also was there. It was they had a great weekend. They put together whatever you think of them, just looking at it strategically, they put some points on the board right there. Okay? Trump's going to have to figure it out. He's been flailing. He's been a little weird. He picked J.D. Vance. I don't think he loves that. RFK, he's going with the RFK Tulsi. Like, it's funny how the podcast community has shifted towards Trump. There's a whole kind of like layer of podcast politics. Now, obviously not Pod Save America. Now, obviously not like an NPR or a Daily or an Ezra Klein or any of these, more establishment wing shows. But this kind of Rogan sphere, believe that they're free thinking kind of group has kind of shifted. There's a little RFK, a little Tulsi, a little... I think people think that those people are more interesting than they are. That's my opinion. The people who I think are interesting are people like J.D. Vance when he goes to a donut shop. Folks, this is must-see television. This was found on Reddit. Are interesting as fuck. Reddit, of course, if we're going to speak about bias on both sides, Reddit tends to lean left, I would say. Here we have J.D. Vance makes weird appearance at a donut shop. Please enjoy.
The zoo has come to town. Thank you for letting us come in here. Yeah. I'm sorry, man. She doesn't want to be on film, guys, so just cut her out of anything.
They rolled with this. She didn't want to be in, okay? He said, and again, I looked at some of the, so this is things that people pointed out. I'm not the first one to point this out, but assuming you didn't read this thread, the zoo has come to town is not a phrase. We would think he's going for circus. That's not too egregious. Let's just keep it rolling.
I'm Vinny, Vice President.
Okay.
Letting her know he's running for president, she responds, okay.
How long you worked here?
I've been here since the beginning of July.
Okay.
For this year.
Okay. Good. How about you, sir?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Good. Just everything.
Okay, good is not a great response to when you're trying to interact with normal human beings. But this is my favorite part here is the donut order itself. Okay? This is my point. Politicians do this everyman thing. We're just like you. They're not going to a donut shop. They're not. I just don't. I find it hard to believe that people who work on Capitol Hill that are like hyper obsessed with their careers are like, let's go grab donies today. I don't see it happening. By the way, full disclosure, I don't either. I love them. When I have them, it's a problem. I'm like addicted to donuts. Like I'm the guy. Well, let's watch how he orders them because you need to see it. I'll explain my donut problem right after.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of glazed here, some sprinkle stuff, some of these cinnamon rolls, whatever makes good. I'll just flip it around.
Okay.
About 4 years.
About 4 years? Okay. How long have you been here?
A little over 6 months.
Okay, good.
Okay. Him doing bad crowd work at the end is unbelievable. Okay, good comes back. The most egregious part of this is some glazed sprinkles, cinnamon rolls over there. Whatever makes sense. Brother, you're at a donut shop. You're trying to pretend you go to these places. If you get to pick out 12 donuts, you want to pick. That's the most exciting part of going to the donut shop. You walk in and you get a chance, a beautiful chance to pick 12 lovely treats. Treats you know might not be good for you. Maybe you shouldn't have them, but fuck it. Today's donut day. You get to have them, and you are going to pick each one out. You will spend time picking each one out, each perfect little treat, envisioning 12 different hold experiences that you get to shove into your mouth. Don't be nasty. Okay? That's an exciting moment in the donut shop life. Like I was saying, I'm not going to pretend that I be rolling down to the donut shop all the time. Okay, folks, little technical difficulties there. That's okay. We self-produce. That's why the quality is so bad. We do our best. Here's the point. We're talking about donuts, all right? And I remember distinctly, when I was working in an office, every once in a while, someone would try to be nice. Usually like a new manager. You know, I worked in sales for a while, and you'd have the new manager would kind of come in, and they'd want to be rah-rah. They'd want to be like, all right, guys, smile and dial. Thursday, brought us treats. Let's go. Time to pound pavement. All right? And it would be, I would go, fuck. Because I was like, I'm trying not to eat that, but I can't. Because it's so good. It's so good. So I would go, I am that guy. I am this guy. I go, I see a donut, and I go, well, I couldn't possibly. And I cut it, and I have a quarter of that donut. And I eat it, and I go back to my desk, and I go, well, I deserved a treat, but I'm a skinny legend. And then I wait 25 minutes, and the sugar high goes away, and all I'm thinking about is the fact that I deserve more treat. And I go back, fink, another quarter of that donut. Maybe a different flavor, I don't know. But I'm definitely having another. And I would slowly, over the course of a day, consume probably 1.5 donuts. And it would start from 9 a.m., and it would continue. I would be making runs around 3:30. I'll only have an eighth this time. Okay, and that's what it is. So that's why I can't go. I love donuts so much that I can't go to a donut shop and be weird like J.D. Vance. But in the office, yeah, I was a menace. And I love that the sales manager was like, people think by bringing you treats, it's like a good thing. It's like, hey, we got to improve office morale around here. We're going to do donuts in the morning. We're going to do beers. We're going to do happy hour. We're going to do happy hour around 5, grab a beer, get to know your coworkers. It's like, you know what doesn't make me feel good? Being stuck at work on donuts and beer. That's not great. Unless you're trying to meet some of the folks and get a little fucked up. Depended on the company. When I worked at Chubby's, we had some fun times. We would do these big sale days. Chubby's, if you don't know, clothing brand. It's become a great clothing brand. When I started there, it was primarily shorts, trunks, collared shirts. Now it's got everything. So whatever. This isn't a fucking plug. Erase it. Kidding. We would do these sales, big sale days, like on Cyber Monday, and the whole team, it was all hands on deck, and everyone had a job, and you'd have to get in at 6 a.m., and we would stay there till probably 8 or 9. And the way we made it fun was icing each other, Smirnoff icing each other, eating horribly all day, and being lunatics. And we would get hammered, then we would go out after and get more hammered. And you know what? They were special times. That is team bonding. That is team bonding. But at a large tech company where barely anyone gets along, all right, now you're just pumping me full of sugar, making me more pissed off that I'm locked up in this. Despite all my rage, I'm still just making phone calls from a fucking cage. I didn't like it that much, I will say. I didn't like it. My friend who I mentioned now lives in this building. He used to work at Yelp. I worked at a different company you wouldn't know of, digital ad company. We were in San Francisco, and we had we lived in different boxes is how we looked at it. We could see each other's office from one another, and we would send photos of ourselves sad. We'd be like, oh, trapped in my little work box. Would you like to go out and play Pokemon Go during the day? And we did. We liked playing Pokemon Go. It was freeing at that time. It got us outside. Got us outside walking. I can see why the Asians like it. The Asians love an outside walk. Get out there, get the gals going, loosen up the arms. You know what they do. You know what they do. I want to transition into the verdict because no one's been able to solve this Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson trial. I, of course, have. But before I finally move on, there's one final piece of information that I think is important to note from the national conventions, and that is that the Grindr dating app crashed in Milwaukee during the RNC. Everything we know. Love, or at least a spike of users on the gay dating app Grindr, was reported in Milwaukee area this week when the RNC was in town. Over 1,000 users reported a Grindr outage. Those dudes are not pleased, okay? The fact that it's called the Cream City, we don't even have to discuss. It's been written here for us. Anyway, here's the deal. You could argue that it was just an outage. You have to have some journalistic integrity here. You can't just say that a bunch of Republicans who have traditionally had an anti-gay agenda are getting plugged up out there. However, some on-the-ground reporting. On a given day, you'll go on there and see a headless torso or a blank profile. A headless photo usually means that person is looking for a fling and not a relationship. Yeah, so does being on Grindr, folks. On a normal day, the Grindr user said he usually comes across around 10 who don't show their face, but he stopped counting at over 50 anonymous profiles when he checked the app. Thursday, they did have an increase in traffic. Now, that does happen. Okay, that does happen surrounding any large event, of course. But it's just interesting when it's the RNC. When it's the DNC, it's like, yeah, they put in the D in each other NC. That's the dick in each other national convention, folks. This podcast has gone off the rails. Grindr executives are calling the RNC convention a Grindr Super Bowl, George Santos said. Okay. Well, that's just fun. See, that just makes me happy for people. Get in there and fuck if that's what you need to do, okay? That's beautiful. And then finally, before we finally leave politics, we saw the Scott Peterson case, my favorite political speech of all time.
He said one thing that got me. He said Kamala has one big advantage. She's a very beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman. So I decided to go back and reread the clause. I'm not saying he's, but I say that I am much better looking than her. I think I'm much better. Much better. I'm a better looking person than Kamala. No, I couldn't believe it. She said, I had never heard that one. They said, no, her biggest advantage is that she's a beautiful woman. I'm going, huh. I never thought of that.
I didn't thought of that.
I'm better looking than she is.
God, he's good. I never thought of that. I'm a better looking person than Kamala. Is the funniest thing I have heard in political life. It's important. It's great. It deserves a round of applause. Okay, moving on to the Scott Peterson. I watched both documentaries, folks, so you didn't have to. Shocking amount of bias in each, perhaps a microcosm of the case itself. If you don't recall, Scott Peterson had a wife named Lacey Peterson and a unborn son. She disappeared. He ended up getting convicted as guilty. It was a whole wild thing. I'm not going to walk you through the entire case. It involves a mistress coming out of nowhere. It involves alternative theories. It involves a lot of circumstantial evidence that points to Scott himself. He was on death row. He is now serving life in prison. On Netflix, it was one of the top 10 shows because all we want to watch is people die and us figure it out. Because it's interactive. That's the thing. Everyone would like football if they let you call the play every once and again. These things are fun because they give us something to talk about. But this one was annoying because in this new era of documentary that we live in, where to get access to people, you have to get their sign off on what goes into the documentary. I had to watch a Peacock documentary with Scott and his family and a Netflix documentary with some members of Scott's family. I think mostly just his sister-in-law, who's now an attorney, and then the Lacey Peterson family, and it was omitting certain pieces of evidence. It didn't even cover the brown van with bloody mattress around the street, the alternate timelines of the Medina house burglary. If you know the case, you will know these things well. I'm not going to go into all of them because that's not what this show is about. This show is about the truth, which is the only thing that I can provide you, which is that the Modesto PD did a bad job, but Scott Peterson is still guilty. That's what I believe. I do believe he probably shouldn't have been convicted, okay, because it was a poor case and they omitted things that they shouldn't have, which is why the Los Angeles Innocence Project is now taking it up, but the guy probably still did it. There's too many things he did, okay, that look too guilty. Why was he researching tides? Why was his boat in the water? Again, I'd have to lay it out to really talk about all those things in depth. So I want to take away my higher level take here, which was that the scenes of people taking in this case were disgusting. People outside the courthouse, like a party, like Coachellaing outside a courthouse to hear the verdict in a case about a guy who either did or did not kill his wife and unborn son, and then they say guilty. You have no idea the real truth, and you start cheering as you've been waiting outside of a stranger's trial. That's a big what is wrong with people moment. And it ties in with my concept of fandom for the week, because when I watch people go apeshit for stuff that they might be educated about, but sometimes don't really know. When I watch people attending these conventions losing their shit, okay, thinking that Trump really cares about you, thinking that Kamala is the savior, thinking that RFK was the difference, drops out and supports Trump, thinking that you know whether Scott Peterson is guilty or not and that you're cheering for a bad thing, that is fucking crazy. It's a deficiency in the human brain. It's also one of the most fun things that we get to do, which is what makes it kind of an odd thing. Being a fan is the most fun thing. It's so fun when your team wins. Fuck the other team. Memes about the other team. You guys are losers. Cut to episode 1 when I'm fucking crying in a forest because the Niners lost. It's nice to feel. But if you find yourself interested in a murder documentary, like I was, that's great, okay? If you find yourself interested in politics, like I am, that's great. But go in there as an analyst, not a fan, okay? You need to objectively look at that evidence. You can't say, hey, I know that guy's guilty. I'm not going to look at that. You need to evaluate the whole case. People didn't do that. I still think they probably hit the right conclusion. That's not the point. I'm watching videos of everyone saying Scott Peterson left. He was trying to flee to Mexico because he was in San Diego. His family lived in San Diego. He had his brother's license in his car. Okay, they omitted this from the Netflix documentary. He was going to play Torrey Pines. Anyone who lives in San Diego knows if you play Torrey Pines, you get that resident discount. Boy, you golfing for cheap. It's a very good reason. People, even documentarians, are leaving out important evidence. I'm running a podcast that 12 people listen to, covering the stories here because we care about one thing, and that's truth. We need to talk about Boeing. We have to talk about Boeing. We have been at the forefront of Boeing journalism here at the Joey Show for a long time. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I will. I'm going to put together a clip. God, I keep giving myself more work. I'm going to put together a clip. We're going to roll some of our Boeing coverage. Okay, we're going to roll some footage of our Boeing coverage right here. I don't want to add to speculation. Could she be the person who killed the Boeing whistleblower? The Royals have flown on Boeing planes. I'm not saying there's not a relationship. Where we discussed the conspiracy surrounding Kate Middleton. That, of course, we do want to apologize. It sounds like she does have cancer. However, that does lead us to the second thing that could be happening here. Now there's new speculation that Diddy, in fact, was the Boeing whistleblower. I'm not here to speculate, but that is what I do here. Am I expecting a Pulitzer Prize for this podcast? Yes. Boeing is going to space. I'm excited for them. I'm happy for them. I would love it if they focused a bit on the airplanes here. I'm not going to say that Boeing is whacking the whistleblowers. And I'm also not going to say that that's a great euphemism for jerking off. I'm not going to say that. It is. Might want to wash those sheets. I pulled a Boeing. I whacked the whistleblower in there. I just think we have to ask questions. Okay, why are they going to space? The same week that this comes out. Are they distracting us? It's a thought. But we will be covering the Boeing story as we have to. We are the world's leader in Boeing whistleblower information, and we will cover it as is necessary. I mean, folks, I do all this. I say all this. I provide warnings, even as a biased stockholder, okay, who A, wants Boeing to go up because I want money, and who also doesn't want to die. We've discussed this. I cover all this in a nonpartisan matter. You can't be a fan. You can't have stake in the game. You just have to cover it. When they started sending people to space, I said, God damn it, that feels ambitious. Boeing sending people to space when everything was going wrong with their terrestrial planes is the type of Hail Mary that I genuinely kind of admire. You know, it's like I've done a lot of comedians do this where it's like my 5-minute sets are not going great and I'm not gaining traction online because I'm 3 years into stand-up. So I think I need to write a feature film. I think that's what I need to do. I must write a feature film so that I can, that's my real way to start nailing it, okay? You guys got to focus on the fundies. Focus on the fundamentals. People are in space right now, okay, for 6 months posting. Those people are going to be, you got to be weird when you come back. I feel weird when I come back from like Hawaii. I'm like, damn, what is life? These people are coming back. They're like bone density's decreased. They've been up there looking at the pale blue dot, thinking about what it all means, understanding that life is not about who wins this race, is not about some murder trial that you're oddly connected to, is not about any of these weird things. Life is this large thing, and we as human beings, we are all one. And then they have to come back. You know, the funny thing is the honeymoon period wearing off for those astronauts. Like for 6 months, their families are like, where's mama? Where's papa? I can't wait till he comes home. I don't know why they're Indian. Maybe the lady was. I don't know. But they're going to get back, okay? And for 2 weeks, it's just going to be like so exciting. Like it's so good. It's like you're in a warm glow. It's like this beautiful, beautiful thing. And then in week 2, they're like, you forgot this at the grocery store. What's wrong with you? And you're like, oh, that's right. Life is a dull hell. Do they get to keep their perspective from the pale blue dot? Is that what Boeing was trying to do? Is that why the royal family is involved? Maybe the royal family is involved, as I said all along, and maybe they're realizing as they've lost their grip on power, as they've lost their grip as a colonial powerhouse, and they don't even run that country anymore, maybe they've had a moment of realization. Maybe what they've realized is the system of global governance has always been self-interested, has always been not exactly about the people, and that maybe we all need to come together as one. Maybe there is this, everyone says it's naive, but maybe there is this John Lennon, Beatles level kumbaya moment that we can all have, that we can all come together, that Russell Brand used to talk about, but now he's just kind of a like right-wing guy. Anyway, maybe they knew all that, and they at Boeing said, leave them up there. Give them their perspective. When they come back to Earth, much like Jesus himself, some believe, they will have that perspective. They will be able to open people's minds to what the world really is. They won't get nagged for forgetting a grocery. Okay? They will be able to be the change that every prophet has sought to be, that every politician pretends to be, that every comedian does one joke about and realizes they're not talented enough to pull off, except for Bill Hicks that one time. Everyone has been looking for this moment. Maybe Boeing knows. Maybe they are a spiritual entity. Maybe Boeing is not really a company, but a state of mind, kind of a state of being, a state of ascension. Whoosh. Maybe the crashes are a metaphor for the problems that we face along the way. Or perhaps it's a poorly run company that has been focused more on lobbying and gaining power within the dark alleys of our government than making the goddamn planes that we all fly in. It's possible. But we're not going to know until those astronauts come back. Okay, we will find out. And we don't learn stories till late ever, do we? Interesting story in the Wall Street Journal about the Nord Stream pipeline. Do you remember that? There was this pipeline that carries all the natural gas from Russia to the rest of Europe that keeps natural gas prices low, but also keeps Russian coffers full, that it exploded right around the beginning of the Ukraine war. And I remember the U.S. saying that was Russia. And then I remember Russia saying that was the CIA, that was the U.S. And then I don't remember a goddamn thing. I don't remember a goddamn thing until the story comes out. And stories always come out later, don't they? The Nord Stream story, I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal. It's called A Drunken Evening, a Rented Yacht, the real story of the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. I'm in. Anything that involves a yacht, being drunk, and my pipe, I'm reading that. In May of 2012, so here's what actually happened. A handful of senior Ukrainian military officers and businessmen had gathered to toast their country's remarkable success in halting the Russian invasion. Buoyed by alcohol and patriotic fervor, someone suggested a radical next step, destroying the Nord Stream pipeline. Crazy. I always laugh when I read media speculation about some huge operation involving Secret Service, submarines, drones, and satellites. One officer who was involved in the plot said, the whole thing was born out of a night of heavy boozing and the iron determination of a handful of people who had the guts to risk their lives for their country. That's the party I want to get invited to. That's the type of shit I want to be around for. Why don't I get invited to these things? I like getting fucked up. I like chatting politics. I'm not getting on the boat at night, but I do want to be at these events. That sounds fun. How often have you been fucked up at a party and you talk about something and you're like, dude, we should write that movie. Dude, we should do that. These motherfuckers did it. That's a Ukrainian spirit out there. Apparently what happened, they came up with this crazy idea. Zelensky fucking signed off on it. Then the CIA found out, shouts to the fellas, they found out and said, hey, don't do that. Zelensky backed off and said, you guys can't do it. And then this dude, Zelensky's commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny, who was leading the effort, nonetheless forged ahead. That is awesome. And this guy looks awesome. This guy looks like the guys that do Nostrovia. I hope that wasn't, I don't know what language they speak. We will go. We will destroy the pipeline. So they got a yacht. They had a small group of people. They had some divers. They had a gal on board, so it looked like they were going for a fun thing, and they blew that bitch up. They sure as shit did. That's pretty wild. And it never really, the story just kind of went away. That made a large difference in the war. It put pressure on a lot of things. It changed the price of natural gas. It took away a bunch of Russian money, as we were talking about, and it was just a few people who got fucked up and decided to make it happen. I love that energy. Invite me to those parties. Invite me to those parties. I want to be sitting around and just getting fucked up with the fellas and coming up with ideas about how to run countries and shit. You know, like that's like, there's some level of alcohol in politics that I enjoy. You know, like fucking Hitler's thing, the beer hall putsch. He came in and he like gave a speech and a beer. I should know more about that before I talk about that. He's a touchy figure, that guy. But when I just hear that, I go, he was in a beer hall doing speeches and shit. And actually, like, I think they were taking over and stuff. But then they're like sitting there drunk and they're like, this is what our country should do. No, this is what we will do. We have you under the arrest of whatever. We shall do it. We shall forge ahead. But they're all getting trashed. What? Can you imagine waking up with that hangover the next morning going, oh, fuck, did we hatch a plan to destroy a pipeline last night? And we're going to do it? And this guy still boozes. You can see it in his face. I love it. I love it. So, you know what? I guess the main moral of the story here is, if you can dream it, you can do it. But look out for yourself, okay? Don't fall into a narrative. Don't fall into being too much of a fan of anything, okay? Analyze things the way you want to, with your own self-interest in mind, because I promise you that's what everyone else is doing. And guess what? You're more powerful than you think. Maybe you and the fellas might get together sometime and say, hey, we should rent a yacht and blow up a pipeline. Or you say, hey, we should send some people to space and leave them there and see if maybe they feel better when they come back and it helps us. Maybe people just been boozing at Boeing. I would love to go boozing at Boeing. Please invite me to that. Signed, a concerned shareholder. That is our show for the week. Thank you guys very much for listening. I much appreciate it. Again, let me know. Do you prefer the guest episodes, the solo episodes? I'm trying to do a little mix of both. Finding our footing here, trying different things, trying to have fun. And fun we are having. It's all we ever have at The Joey Show. Please come see me live. I'm in Vegas this weekend. I got Chicago, Baltimore. I think that's it for this month. I will be with Noel Miller in Madison, Detroit, and Minnesota. And I'm going to go to the Minnesota Vikings 49ers game if anyone's in Minnesota. And I am probably going to go to the Ravens-Bills game, Sunday Night Football in Baltimore, because football's coming back, baby. I think next week we're going to do a little football show. Please like and subscribe. Please, please, please leave us a rating on friggin' Spotify, Apple, all that shit. I should probably do these ads earlier, but I didn't. Thank you guys for listening. This has been The Joey Show. I'll see you next week. Thank God I have a podcast.